Joining me this morning, former Conservative Government Advisor, far right, obviously, Claire Pearsall. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, we are just in some very weird territory. I have to say, I didn't understand when I was away on holiday last week, and I tried to stay off Twitter, apart from, obviously I post a beach photo just because it annoys people, and that's just kind of what I do. It's so much fun having people send abuse to you when you're sitting drinking a pina colada on a beach in Mexico, just going, have a great time. I don't care. I literally just don't care. It just makes me laugh. But I couldn't work out, like, where is this grooming scandal story come from? What new aspect of the story is? There wasn't really anything new other than this letter that Jess Phillips, the Home Office Minister, had written saying, no, we don't want a full national inquiry. But then it completely exploded. It's now, what, a week that this has been going on since Elon Musk's first tweets. The war of words has not died down. I think Keir Starmer thought that he was going to dampen this down yesterday with his pre-scripted words. He really has failed to do so. He said that grooming gang inquiry callers, basically politicians, he said, of course, you know, not the people who actually, the people who are victims and the whistleblowers who also want this, a grooming gang inquiry. He says they are jumping on the far-right bandwagon. He's accused Elon Musk of spreading lies and misinformation. Badenoch has said Starmer's just, you know, pushing smear tactics. I mean, it has all just completely and utterly gone off. Keir Starmer's words were met by Elon Musk replying that the Prime Minister refusing the demands for a national inquiry show he was deeply complicit in the mass rapes in exchange for votes. So this has completely gone off. James Cleverly, the former Home Secretary, said that making his comments, Keir Starmer was the best recruiting sergeant for extremism. I mean, is this going to go away anytime soon, Claire?
No, it really won't. And Badenoch is launching a vote in the Commons tomorrow as part of a different bill, the Children and Welfare Bill, to look at grooming gangs. So you can see that the politicking isn't going to stop, because if the Labour Party votes against it...
She wants to have a vote on whether we're going to have that inquiry.
Indeed, indeed. So you can see that if the Labour Party vote against it or abstain, then that's your election literature for the next 6 months.
Is that playing politics with children's lives?
It feels a little optimistic, because the bill that she's trying to pin it to doesn't actually really lend itself to this kind of vote, and it's on the second reading, so I'm not entirely sure if she can do it.
Yeah.
There are better people at parliamentary procedure than I, so it feels a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, I think it's a fair argument from anybody criticising the Tories to say, and people put this point to Robert Jenrick on the media round this morning, you guys were in power. Robert Jenrick was an immigration minister. He sat in cabinet. Like, he wasn't in the cabinet, but he sat in cabinet. Badenoch was in cabinet. Well, when were they calling for this inquiry then? They also turned down having another full inquiry. The argument had been, well, there had been this full inquiry, the Alexis J one, but it's very, very clear that was a 7-year inquiry into, what happened in the church abuse, or in care homes, you name it, everywhere.
Yeah.
They barely touched on the grooming gangs issue. The argument being that, well, it's already been exposed, we already know about that. Rotherham got one mention. There was 10 days of hearings. People like Maggie Oliver weren't even interviewed. They interviewed chief constables. Why are you interviewing the chief constable of Manchester Police but not the whistleblower who left her job to expose the issue? That seems to me to be an inquiry that didn't do its full job. Alexis J is getting an awful lot of credit, but I'm not sure she did go far enough. Now, the remit was very, very wide. Having a particular inquiry on this issue, it being national, not local. National is crucial here, is it not? Simply because there was local cover-ups by the police, by the social workers, by the local councillors, many of whom wanted to protect, in some cases, their own mates and family members who were being accused of these crimes. I mean, that was what was going on. That said, I don't know who I would trust to run this inquiry. Who would be someone who was enough of the great and good to run such an inquiry, as in having a legal background, being a judge or whatever, but who could be trusted to basically put the boot into the establishment. Other than, of course, when you think about the Grenfell inquiry, so much criticism of that former justice, and even from the families, those who lost loved ones in Grenfell, and actually he totally went for it. In no way did he pull his punches.
And I think we saw that with things like the Windrush Scandal. The report that was done into that was absolutely damning of what the government had failed on. And so I don't think people are scared to do that. I think what's really worrying is that the Labour government was suggesting that the local councils should run their own independent inquiries. Well, please, they're the ones who are culpable in all
that's
of
like
this.
saying, that's like saying to the BBC, I think you should run the investigation into how you covered up Jimmy Savile. That's going to work out well.
Marking your own homework, it's always a good thing, isn't it? So
but the Tories did fail. Lexis J reported in 2022, made a load of recommendations. Yvette Cooper last night did, again, wasn't in their manifesto, hadn't been mentioned, clearly rushed through as a result of this. So that there was a piece written by Keir Starmer for The Sun today. Clearly he wanted to have something tangible. This is how politics is done in this country. It is done on the 24/7 news cycle. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, promising in Parliament last night, and again, an emergency statement, that a new law to tackle the child abuse cover-ups. So basically, if you are a professional, if you're in a position of trust, you're a teacher, a social worker, a police officer, a scout leader, a football coach, if you are aware of allegations of child abuse or suspect it and you don't report it, you will face not only professional misconduct charges but also possible criminal charges. You could actually face going to jail for up to 2 years. I think that's long awaited. But that was called for by Alexis J in 2022. Yeah. Well, your lot were in power. Robert Jenrick has said, it was going into. It was going through the motions. They tried to put the smoking ban through,
Do you not remember 7
I'm less
bins?
worried about adults choosing to smoke than I am about 11-year-olds being gang raped. Got me old-fashioned.
It wasn't a priority, because if it was, they would have pushed it through.
They had a big majority. They could have pushed through anything they wanted.
They absolutely could have done it, and they picked on subjects that were completely bonkers in my mind when you're looking at the Green Agenda, when you're looking at trans rights, and they pushed those laws through real quick. Yeah. But something like this, they went, we have to think about it. Well, why?
And also cross-party consensus. Who doesn't think that people in a professional role who know about child abuse and don't report it shouldn't face consequences? Who doesn't think that? Because you're weird if you don't think that. I don't know. Maybe that makes me far right, because apparently everything, as we discovered in the last half hour, makes me far right.
I just don't think it would have been difficult to get a consensus at all, and the legal minds in that place could have drawn up something that was a bit more watertight than what we had.
And as we discovered today, the safeguarding minister who's out from the government, again, no cabinet minister out and about today or yesterday, but the safeguarding minister talking about this new law on online deepfakes, as we were discussing in the last hour. They're worried about. Yes, these are massively damaging. Someone either makes a video without your knowledge or photographs of you and put them online, or when somebody creates a deep fake, AI image that purports to be you, incredibly upsetting and damaging, and of course a criminal act. But again, but this government was planning to bring in a law on that quicker than bringing in a law on protecting children from actual rape in real life. The obsession that politicians, but particularly Labour, have whenever there's anything, an MP gets stabbed to death in his constituency surgery, like David Emmers. Hurty tweets, we need to tackle online abuse. I'm thinking we need to worry more about the people with knives who believe there are 72 virgins waiting for them, who go and stab a publicly elected MP. I'm thinking the reality of crime and risk and threats on the streets is what people are concerned about. Whether that is, having, your mobile phone stolen, your house broken into, or your 11-year-old gang raped on a nightly basis.
But it's easier to make everybody's attention go into a different direction. Say, hurty tweets, look at those, that's really, really bad. That's causing all of these problems, without looking at the fact that what's causing all these problems are people behaving appallingly, knives on the street, and people not being locked up.
Yep. And what do you make of Robert Jenrick saying some immigrants coming to Britain have backward, frankly medieval attitudes to women? And he said basically that's what brought us to the grooming gang scandal. We are talking about men of British Pakistani descent carrying out these crimes. In the court cases, in the actual trials, we've actually had these men say, they're white girls, they're trash, they would use white terms, white slag, white slut, things like that, to the girls as they were abusing and raping them. Lots of conversations about how they were easy pickings. No one cared about them. They didn't cover up. They were not modest modestly dressed and therefore I've done a lot of travelling around the world. It's very, very, very clear to me how you are treated if you're a woman on your own, and how you're treated if you are not covered up. And basically there are an awful lot of cultures where if you're with a man and you're covered up, up to the neck, whatever, you're treated respectfully. If not, you're basically a prostitute. That's what you're treated as. And anyone who hasn't travelled widely doesn't realise that is what is the case for many women in many cultures. Yeah. You need to keep your eyes wide open. When Robert Jenrick says this, is he wrong to say it? Is he wrong to think it? Is it, tell me what you make of what he's had to say.
He is not wrong to say it.
Because it's true.
He really does have a point. There is truth in what he's saying, yes. I don't like
He's not saying
this.
All immigrants. He said some immigrants coming to Britain.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because it isn't everybody. We can't tar everybody with the same brush.
Not.
However, the majority of people coming from places like Pakistan and Bangladesh have a view of
women. And many
women,
sub-Saharan countries as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to
Middle East.
And it's not a small list, but they're...
North African countries as well. I mean,
there
are many countries where...
Their attitudes towards women are absolutely appalling. They are treated as not even second-class citizens. They are treated as worse than anything else. They are treated like dogs on the street. It is appalling. Why are we allowing immigration to people like that who have no benefit to this country,
Claire,
without calling
you
on
know why? It's because diversity is our strength. The King said it. Apparently Britain was built on diversity. I mean, it literally wasn't. Literally the opposite was. It was built on having a monoculture, a Judeo-Christian culture. I'm an atheist. The values of this country, the laws of this country, the culture of this country are all based on the Judeo-Christian culture and the Bible teachings. That's where they come from. The Industrial Revolution came out of Protestantism. It's really, I mean, if you see what happened in Northern Europe and Southern Europe and what's happened to North America, South America, the impact of our religious, cultural traditions are huge in terms of our relationship with the state, people's relationship with any god they believe in, relationships with each other, property rights. It is absolutely specific to our cultural background. And the idea, again, I've been saying for years, I'm not a multiculturalist. I couldn't care less what colour someone's skin is. I'm no issue whether, 10% or 90% of this country were white or black. It's totally irrelevant to me. The only thing I'm interested in is people's values, culture, opinions, views. I don't think everyone should have the same views. Other than that, we need to agree we believe in democracy, the rule of law, in equal rights for people regardless of their sex, their sexuality, their race, their religion. I mean, the basics. If you don't agree on the basics, it's like two teams playing football and one's playing rugby rules and one playing football. It doesn't work. You have to all agree we're all playing the football rules.
Yes.
But that's the thing. You can't have a whole load of people coming in saying, well, we're playing rugby.
And we have got to the point in this country where you cannot point that out. You cannot say we require you to speak English, understand English, learn English. We can't say that.
To allow your daughter to marry who she wants.
Exactly. But there again, we're going to be called far right for questioning what our border controls should be.
But again, a member of my family, my extended family, has married a Muslim woman, 3 beautiful, beautiful children, who her parents have never met. Because they refused to attend the wedding, refused to have anything to do because he is white and atheist. Yeah. And non-Muslim being the crucial thing, and would not convert. That's it. She was dead to them. She was literally just dead to them. Now, our family, completely... she seems like a really nice girl. The kids are absolutely divine. Not an issue. Just simply not an issue. If it was the other way round, we would be racist. We would be rightly accused of being racist, intolerant, anti-Muslim, blah, 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 blah. But if they do it, well, that's a cultural difference. Yeah, well, it's an unacceptable cultural difference is what it is.
In this country, it absolutely is. And what would it take to make you say to your daughter, I'm never going to speak to you again?
I'm never going to meet your children.
I just can't fathom it. I really can't.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? Just can I also talk about Charlie Hebdo? It's 10 years today, in 2015, on the 7th of January, where 12 people who were journalists, cartoonists, were murdered for basically a picture, a cartoon, not even a critical cartoon, of Prophet Muhammad in the French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. Absolutely horrific attack. Everyone was saying "Je suis Charlie." Everyone was standing firm. Prime Minister only a couple of months ago basically agreed with a backbench Labour MP who called for a blasphemy law in this country. I mean, these people were killed because they had blasphemed against the Islamic religion. Prime Minister apparently saying, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I can't believe it's 10 years ago. I really can't. I remember that day very well. But also, we've got a teacher in Batley who is still in hiding.
Yeah.
From people who
luckier than Samuel Paty in France, where the ongoing trial, because he was beheaded.
He was beheaded. I mean, how in any way is this deemed to be acceptable? And the Prime Minister hiding behind the point that it is either far right or it's the Conservatives' fault doesn't wash.
Yeah, exactly. And again, here's the issue. You know, again, 10 years on, and the problem is worse, not better.
Yeah. Absolutely
Our Lady in
worse.
Heaven film, basically, the cinema's refusing to show it and everyone apologising. And there's a little boy who they brought in a Quran for a bet at school, and it got a bit scuffed. And the local police chief constable taking the mother with her little shroud on, covering her head, to go and basically beg the local men in the local mosque in front of the imam, basically to not kill her family.
She was there for an hour.
Non-crime hate incident brought against the boy. No charges whatsoever against the people threatening death against the family. Not a single charge brought, not a single arrest.
No.
The problem has got worse. Je suis Charlie, what a load of abject BS that is. Because actually, on the contrary, we effectively have a blasphemy law in this country now. And a Prime Minister who wants to make it de jure, not de facto.
Well, we're all going to be put in prison, aren't we? I shall see you there next week.
No, but I'm not worried about it. I'm happy to stand firm on things. Other than, I would really, really like it not to open the door of my house one day and have someone stab me to death, which is what happens to people who blaspheme, inverted commas, against the Islamic religion. This has happened to numerous people across Europe. I know people who are very brave souls who speak out in this country who have to have panic buttons, who can't tell people where they're going to be in advance and have to have 24-hour security because of this. This is a very real threat. It's happening right now. As you say, the Batley Grammar School teacher, 4 years on, still in hiding. I don't think he'll ever be able to come out of hiding because of this threat. It's a very, very, very real thing. And it's not about people being respectful of any particular religion. I don't think we should necessarily respect any religion. I think they should all be mocked. I'm an atheist. I'm entitled to do that. And you can mock me and tell me I'm going to hell. I don't care. But we don't mock certain religions because we are fearful, because we worry about our families and ourselves being murdered. That is an untenable situation. But don't forget, we're far right for saying that. There we are.